Hi, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to thank all the essential workers out there. We're all indebted to your work. All the first line responders, all the medical staff, all the people working to maintain food and order. These are very difficult times for a lot of people. For most of us, all we have to do is stay home. So please just stay home. We're all in this together. And you know what? Just listen to a bunch of podcasts, right? Stay home, watch TV, read books, play music, listen to a bunch of podcasts. We'll see you on the other side. Hi, everybody. My name's Thomas Quinn, and this is Undeniable. Today on the pod, we have Luke Michielsen, a singer-songwriter out of Kitchener, Ontario, who's going to sit down and talk to me about his new album and going over our shared history from the University of Guelph, where I met Luke some 15 years ago. He is one of the best singer-songwriters I know. His ability with words allows you to lose yourself in his melodies and often get transported to these wonderful landscapes in nature. I was so happy that I got to do this interview, even though we're in lockdown right now, so we did it over the internet, but I think it turned out really great, and I'm going to be sampling 3 of his songs throughout, so stay tuned for my conversation with Luke Michielsen.
How have you been?
Wow, any other day, that would be a whole different concept.
I know.
Are you in quarantine? Are you working still?
I am currently occasional teaching. I started a month ago. And so, yeah, it's March break and then school's canceled for at least 2 weeks. So I'm technically off work for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my medical-based anxiety is really, feeling this whole thing of social distancing. And it's like,
I work with dogs. That's kind of my day job. So I have a pretty isolated life. Very unprecedented in our lifetime. It's almost like 100 years since the Spanish flu, which seems pretty significant that it's almost 100 years exactly.
It makes me anxious. So I don't know what that would accomplish for me to be anxious about it. But
yeah, honestly, I got no answers for you, buddy. I think it's a day-by-day situation, you know. There's a lot that we balance in our day-to-day lives. Now it's just no toilet paper, you know.
Luckily, I randomly have like 9 packs of toilet paper.
Yeah, random, eh?
Yeah, we stocked up like a couple months ago just because Sarah was doing couponing.
Mm-hmm.
We have the most toilet paper we've ever had just by chance.
Wow, that might be currency soon, so...
So yeah, what do you normally talk about on this podcast?
I mean, I like to just go into it, but usually we'll talk about art, mainly your art. I do it more of, do you listen to any podcasts?
Not really. I've listened to a couple like golf ones because I've been into golf lately.
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
So where are you living these days?
I live in downtown Kitchener, Ontario.
How do you say your last name? I always fear that I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
Michielsen.
Luke Michielsen. So I think the first time I remember meeting you was first year at Guelph University. We were at like an open mic at the Brass Taps, I believe. That's the name of the on-campus bar. And you came over to our table with a bunch of tables and you were like, what song should I play? And I don't remember what I said, but I said like 3 songs and you went up and played all 3. And
what? That sounds unlikely.
I think you were having a good time. So, but there were like, I don't know. I think you came up with like the harmonica holder and stuff. I knew what wheelhouse you were in. You were like after my heart. So
I could do Neil Young, Radiohead or something.
Maybe you only played 1 song, but you definitely took my request and went and played. And then I know you're friends with the Twins and like a bunch of guys in the section next to mine. So we end up seeing each other quite a few times.
Hanging out on Johnston Green one time. It was a nice, probably spring day, or maybe it was the beginning of second year or something. And I don't know, I remember we were just talking about art, about writing and music. And yeah, that's kind of when I first remember making a connection.
When did you start playing music?
I started playing music, I like to think of it around age 11 as the time where I really decided, like, I'm going to play guitar. This teacher at our school had a 50s and 60s rock and roll band program. 3 mornings a week we would practice like songs from 50s and 60s and some from the 70s.
That's awesome.
There were like tunes from The Doors and Neil Young, but also like, 50s and 60s early rock and roll, like Johnny B. Good and everything. So that's kind of where I learned how to play guitar. Then I took some lessons, and pretty much by grade 8, grade 9, I was like writing my own songs with my friends, and just some totally on my own. It kind of just went from there.
Before that class, did you have like music in your home? Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister. She had like some cassette tapes earlier on, but my parents also had like, I definitely remember they had Sgt. Pepper's cassette tape. They had Michael Jackson Bad, and I remember really loving like Kokomo by the Beach Boys. I would play it like over and over again, and this just came back to me listening to Wind Beneath My Wings. And then I started like buying CDs in grade 8 or 9, and like I was pretty much obsessed with Radiohead like all through high school, and Joy Division and Tom Waits, and pretty eclectic actually, but mostly like in British songwriting and American songwriting.
Were you going to like talent shows or open mics or anything when you were in high school?
In grade 8, like I just performed some songs for the class.
Wow, you were ready to get up there.
I just asked if I could do it. I mostly did like cover bands with my friends, but sometimes we would do like free jams.
Yeah.
Do like a 12-minute free jam. I didn't like have a band where I was writing music with them and playing our own songs probably until like grade 12. I think we had 5 originals. The one band I'm thinking of was called Memorable Urge. And I was like the lead singer. We had 5 originals. I think we also played like Kiss, Rock and Roll All Night, and like Cake's version of I Will Survive. We played Elvis Costello, Tom Waits, Joy Division, Sloan, I think.
Memorable Urge, is that what it was?
Yeah. I think that was the first band where we actually played maybe like 3 to 5 shows with the same name. Before that, we just changed our name like probably every semester.
Yeah. But was it like the same core group of guys?
Basically, but yeah, people would come and go. The drummer ended up being the drummer in my first like more professional rock band, Slow King, which was after Guelph. I had played with him since high school.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was listening to Slow King today.
And then the other writer in Slow King was actually one of the guys that I wrote songs with in grade 7 and 8.
Oh, wow.
So like I called him up like at the end of university and was like, we're doing a band. We went hard with Slow King. We did like probably 70 shows over 2 years and released a full-length album. So we had a lot of drive, and then we imploded quite quickly.
I'm from the city of destruction. I've got a mouth of lion. I'm more than just fire. I'm more than just smoke. Dressed in northern steel. Be prepared to stand your ground. When I come over the hills, there will be no place to stand. We're going to burn your house down. We're going to pay your crime. We are hardened believers. We strike when the time is right. I'm from the city of destruction. I've got a mouth of a lion. I'm more than just fire. I'm more than just smoke.
Actually, I basically followed my sister there because she started there 2 years before me. And I had never been to the town really until she started going to university there. And then I went to visit her a couple times, and I just liked the vibe of the city. And the campus looked nice. Like there were some nice trees on campus, and I was like, okay, I could look at these trees every day.
It's true. It has a very like film quality campus where, especially with Johnson Green and like Johnson Hall Square, like, yeah, I could walk across this square. And I actually had never been there. I just got in and I had heard a lot about it. And then someone was like, there's like 7-to-1 girls to guys there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, okay, that sounds about right. So the first time I ever saw the school was my first day showing up to move in.
Wow. So you were even more green than me.
Yeah, and I stand by it. It was a good choice. I kind of maybe would have liked to have gone to Concordia.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it and don't regret it. I stayed in Guelph for a few years, but then no more. No more Guelph. Now I'm in Kitchener.
That song, I think it's your last song on that album, Mouth of a Lion.
Yeah.
Is that the last one? I remember listening to this album I think I actually had the CD. I might have gone to a CD release of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something about that tune that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I really liked that one too. And I thought that we had it last on the album, and it was maybe a sign of a direction that we would go in. But I don't know. I think everyone just started like going to get their masters or go to teachers college and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And we kind of just stopped writing, and we were all living in different cities, so gas became too expensive. Those are all the reasons we broke up. There wasn't really any other reason than that. Just people were like, I don't want to dedicate my full time to this.
You then wrote Burn to the Ground? Is that right?
So I did that almost immediately after. I think I recorded it maybe 3 or 4 months after Slow King broke up. And I already had most of the songs. I think I wrote Burning and Liars and maybe Foot Down, Yours and Mine. I guess I did write a lot of them after Slow King, but some of them were written at the same time, like, or before Slow King even, like Farmin' Man and Jack Pine were songs from when I was like 18 or 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, the solo material was like kind of waiting for me when the band broke up. It wasn't like, oh no, what am I going to do?
Yeah. So it just, it was a natural progression to go in and record those songs.
Yeah.
There's like a nostalgic quality to your songwriting, I find, where it's either you're writing about back in the day type themes or your youthful themes. Is that something that you were just in at the time, or is there something to that where you're just trying to connect with your youth?
I just kind of related it in my mind right now to the fact that a lot of the lyrics I write definitely have an image related to them in my mind. Mm-hmm. So like I see a picture, it's either like a setting or a location. So yeah, sometimes I've wrote about just something in my memory that stuck with me because obviously it had some kind of significance to me. So yeah, I think you're kind of on the money there. So not only do my songs have like an image that I'm always thinking of, even when after I've written it, I continue to conjure up that same image when I'm performing.
The imagery is to go even to Slow King. Did you write after school? Did you write all those songs, or were you co-writing them?
They were all co-writes with Anthony Ferreira.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there might have been like one offshoots that I wrote and Homes that Anthony wrote, something like that.
Yeah.
But it was mostly like we just shared, we were co-writers on it. But I wrote most of the lyrics for all the ones that I sing on.
Okay.
I would definitely like bounce them off of Anthony, and they were like inspired by the chords we were playing or the riffs we were using or whatever.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to, obviously, like we've talked slightly about like Neil Young and even like Gord Downie or someone like that, where you're very good at like you said, where you have an image or a moment in your memory that you're writing towards. But there is After School on that first Rival Cities album from Slow King, where it was, I remember it really puts me back in that, all those things you used to do, and then like I believe the chorus is, we were so young or something like that. We were so young, so young.
Yeah, we're still young. Yeah.
Still young, sorry.
That's okay. So would have worked as well.
Yeah. I guess it's also, we have fairly similar backgrounds and stuff, so it does speak to me quite a lot.
Yeah, like I just remember getting mad at my friend who would purposely slash me at street hockey. That's like one of the lyrics. You hit me with your hockey stick until I threw a fit. He would always just like find my breaking point, and then I'd have to like drop the gloves.
That's a very Canadian youth, you know. I think a lot of people can relate to that, because there's always that troublemaker who's just trying to goad you into dropping the gloves.
Yeah.
And then on Burn to the Ground, the song Burning, I can't remember exactly the lyrics.
I accidentally started a forest fire, like by burning down my tree fort. So it's a true story, and it's always a great one to do some banter about before playing it.
Yeah.
I even told some grade 5-6s last month about it, like when I was supply teaching in their class, and then I played the song.
I saw a burning bush when I was 11 years old. I set a fire that my water pail couldn't douse. The flames went up and pulled the birch down. The firefighters let it burn to the ground. And sometimes I still lose control. I met a widow man on a trip to Halifax. He always lent his hand, but he never got it back. We went to pick weed from a man on the rock, and I couldn't sleep 'cause my heart was in shock. And sometimes I just lose control. And now I understand how I was when I was young. I was caught on the wall like a fish on a lure. I'm lucky that I got let back in the water. I could have been the one burned to the ground. To the ground. To the
Tell me the story.
I guess I was around 11 years old, or 10, 11 years old, around when I started music as well. But my friends and I had a series of tree forts. We just kept moving them to more like hidden areas so other people wouldn't find them. And then I got started like playing with matches for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
I guess I had pyro tendencies. So we would like just light matches and like burn plastic bags and listen to it go zip, zip. I don't know if you've ever done that. And then long into that pyro stage, we went down to the fort on a windy, dry fall day.
Yeah.
And the fire started because I lit just like a paper bag that held like a nails
Okay.
that had nails in it. I lit the paper bag on fire, and then we started like a little bonfire inside the fort. And then we, for some reason, just like threw the bench on it. And then it was like, okay, we've got to put this out now. And then my friend was like, let's smother it with dry leaves. And I was like, no. And then he just started doing it anyway. So he's just piling up dry leaves like all over this fire. And the fire disappeared under it momentarily. But then a little bit of smoke started coming up out of the leaves. And all of a sudden it all burst into flames. And then I ran home to get a water bucket. And when I came back, the flames were like 12 feet high or something. So then I went and called the fire department, but they had already been called. And I was like devastated that I had committed this destruction. But yeah, I was definitely a big part of it. I'll take half the responsibility, I guess, even though I don't know if I wouldn't have.
Were there any repercussions where you got...
We got like... The firefighters let the entire fort burn down.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't want to give anyone any ideas, so they burned it down to like ashes. And then, yeah, like the fire chief and police like took a report from us, but I was like crying and really remorseful. So I never did anything like that again.
Similarly, there's always a lot of nature.
Yeah.
You spoke on it a bit where you're talking about how you get like an image. Do you write in nature or do you just reminisce and like wish you were out there? Or?
I don't write in nature that often, but like, for example, Jack Pine, I was at my parents' house, like in the living room. I think I was like 19 and looking out the front window at a pine tree. So like I was actually looking at a tree while I wrote it. But no, I wouldn't say like I'm usually writing in nature. I just think there's something about like that imagery that just sticks with me or maybe even comforts me. And I feel like I can't go wrong in terms of the relatability of nature. Like it's relatable to me when I'm playing the songs 10 years later. I'm like, yeah, I still appreciate like the beauty of nature. And I think other people like enjoy that imagery too. But it's mostly when I'm writing lyrics, I think like, are these lyrics that I want to be singing 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And so that's kind of how my lyrics pass the test. Are they too cliche or boring, or is there no image to go with it? And if any of those things prove true, I usually like just cut that song or write a new verse.
Really? Do you always have the melody first?
No, I usually write like a chord progression with maybe like a melody to go along with the chord progression, and then I just start singing. Sometimes I sing like more gibberish type thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll fill in lyrics from there.
You're always like music first?
Yeah, I think so. I have like written a few things like where I just sing a melody, but then when I go and try to put the chords to it, it just doesn't seem to work. So it seems a lot easier to have the chords first, because then you know immediately if the melody works or not.
Yeah, I guess
like
that makes
if it
sense.
harmonizes with the chords interestingly and pleasingly enough. The phrasing is really important to me with the lyrics. So just how those words, like where they sit across the span of the song, and you know, do they happen during a chord change or right when a chord change happens? The music gives me the cues for the lyrics.
Yeah, you're a good songwriter. I think that's one reason I've always dug your music is, you know, it speaks to the writer in me where you can tell there is a craft there. So it makes sense that you would put that kind of effort.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should write a pop song or whatever, but then it just feels like work, not a craft. And it also feels like there's a lot less chance that that work I would put into writing a pop song will pay off down the road. Because if I'm playing a show with 2 sets, like if I'm playing like 20 songs at a house show, and like 5 years later, I'm probably not going to play that pop song that I just wrote, like to try to be catchy or whatever. But, you know, then the other part of me is like, oh, but maybe you could make more money as a musician. But that's not even... Then there's also the cynical side, which is like, you will fail if you try to do pop.
Yeah, I think that's alive in all of us. If it's not organic to what you want to do and you're sitting down to do it because you think it's going to be a good pop song or something and it isn't organic to who you are or your craft, then I don't think it's ever going to be good. But you never know. I guess it could be the song that breaks you wide open and then you have to play it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my song Pine Needles became like the most requested song over the past 5 years. And I didn't write it with the thought of it being like a pop song. So I think if you just keep at it with that honest attitude, that eventually you'll get you'll make connections with people, whether it's a lot of people. It might not be like a mass audience, but I can say on my last album, each of the 12 tracks, at one point, somebody told me that was their favorite song. All 12 of them. That
must be nice.
I don't know how to explain that.
No, I think I get that.
It's so gratifying to be like, what? That's your favorite? And a different one is someone else's favorite?
It means your whole catalog, at least that album, is connecting with people. And that must be the goal, is to... Well, that's another interesting point. Is it, I'm going to sit down and write a song today, or is it, I have to get this song out? Does that make sense?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm going to sit down and play guitar right now, and we'll see if a song comes out or not, right? And the majority of the time, like, I will come up with something, because usually when I play guitar and just, like, do some music, I just make it up.
Mm-hmm.
I try to write something always. That's like my main thing. I don't just, unless I have like a performance where I have to learn someone's song for a wedding or whatever, I don't just learn songs anymore for the hell of it. So yeah, most of the time I'm trying to just see if something will surface. Sometimes you can get on a roll where it's happening like several times in a week. Other times it'll be like months will go by and every time you play, it just seems like it's not a keeper.
Yeah.
But then you'll get one. Sometimes if you don't play for a while and then like maybe I'm busy working a lot and then I finally get a chance to like, I just have this feeling like I need to get something out, then I will come up with a good one. But yeah, it's really kind of the old let the muse come to you kind of approach. Something will speak to me or through me. And if it's resonating with me, then I can say, all right, let's try to remember this or maybe write it down. A lot of the times over the years, like I actually just memorize my songs as I write them.
Okay.
And like it won't even be like until I'm doing the lyric book for the album that I've ever even wrote down the lyrics.
Wow.
So like if it's not memorizable, then it's not memorable enough for me. Kind of thing. In order to memorize it while you write it, it's like a lot of repetition.
When you're crafting your lyrics, you're just playing it and singing it. You're not really like...
Yeah, exactly. If I have like a deadline or something, then like I'll be playing and singing it and then I'll stop and write down the lyrics. But like I won't write down the music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more writing down the lyrics if it's like I don't have time to memorize it. Otherwise, like I'll try to just memorize it like right away.
Yeah.
Then you do have to go back to it, like take a break and go back to it in 2 hours and then see if you can remember it. And that's how it gets memorized. You can't just like not play it for a month and then expect to memorize that part. I love watching music documentaries.
Yeah, so do I.
I was watching like the Eagles one a couple of years ago. I'm not even like a big Eagles fan, but obviously I respect, the magic that band was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how one of them lived next door to Jackson Browne, and they would just hear the same routine every day. You'd get up, make tea, and then just play like the same part over and over again on piano, like repeat it for like an hour. Because that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's like once you have like a part that is really solid, then you can just fill in the rest of the song, like double parts, add a link or a bridge, or try to jump off and put another chorus to it or something. So, but yeah, it really always seems to start with repetition for me. And I still have tons of unfinished songs where it's just like, there's like a part that I remember, but it's just like missing something, or it's just not good enough, or I can't finish it. But it's, I could probably have a list of like 60 song pieces that I could like just write down right now. Like, even though it's not written down, they're in my brain.
Do you ever just think of forcing a couple pieces together? Like,
Yeah, I think actually, like, I'm definitely aware of that. Like, I remember Paranoid Android by Radiohead just sounds like 3 different songs,
yeah.
basically all in one over like 5-minute epic song. And I think it is true that they just put 3 songs together. And I feel like I have done that before, or like I'll throw out the verses and keep one part and write a new part kind of thing. But yeah, at one point, like for my 2011 EP, I was like trying to write a song a day kind of thing. Again, with my friend Anthony Ferreira, we were like challenging each other to upload a song each day, even if it was like 1-minute idea. And then I like listened to all the ideas in the car. Like I just took the good ones and like expanded them further. So that it might not be like I mashed 2 together, but it's kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and that's Metal in the Natural Order, that album.
So I remember, yeah, Dandelion was kind of like, it had a different chorus originally, but then I just was like, oh, I really like that intro and verse. I'll just double that up some more and come up with a new chorus. So yeah, next.
So that was Metal in the Natural Order, that EP where you were writing a song a day?
I think I only maybe made it to like the 20th day. Actually, Anthony and I have, like, we always send each other a text every year or every couple of years saying, oh, let's write something together again. So that may happen in the future. He was like, let's do a dark folk album. And I think like co-writing with someone like I've co-written with in the past would actually be pretty good, like in terms of being able to try something different, like just a sound that's not really mine totally.
Yeah.
Right? I can just kind of mix in with someone else. I guess that's what happened in Slow King. Like it wasn't totally me.
So are you playing a lot of shows still?
I've been playing kind of like, I would say on average, like 30 to 40 shows a year. Yeah, lately, since I've been writing, I haven't really played much this year, just like 1 or 2 times. It's kind of got to be one or the other unless I'm not working, so.
Who are you listening to these days? Is there any artists that you're listening to that's getting you inspired as you're writing this album?
I guess there's a couple friends that I've been getting music recommendations from. One of the twins, Kevin Graham. We're still good pals, and he gives me lots of new stuff to check out. And then Josh Quintal, who's producing the new album with me, gives me a lot of new artists to listen to. So kind of ones that stuck with me over the last couple of years are kind of Americana guy, Israel Nash. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I haven't.
He lives on a ranch in Texas, and he creates kind of like, when I first heard it, I was like, kind of sounded like Neil Young Harvest, but with more of like a spacey, like psychedelic sound to it, rather than like, it's like gritty country folk rock with psychedelic elements.
That's cool.
And then another one that my producer really likes is His Golden Messenger.
Okay.
Maybe kind of in the similar vein of like folk, like arranged folk music with like a little bit of a rock attitude, very easygoing, loose feeling music. And then Steve Gunn is a guy I actually went to see at the Horseshoe in the summer. And he's like an excellent fingerstyle acoustic guitar player and electric guitar player. I think he's like kind of runs in the Kurt Weill circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, he doesn't really write hits at all. He just writes like these really like lush and intricate guitar parts with really coolly phrased lyrics, which they're not always hard to, or they're not always easy to understand what the lyrics mean in a lot of these artists, all 3 that I mentioned. So yeah, it's kind of like Americana singer-songwriter, but not in the popular mainstream, I would say. Like, they're probably all playing shows to like rooms of 200 to 500 people kind of thing. I don't know. They're people who I appreciate what they do, and I would want to do what they do kind of thing.
I guess one thing I like to always ask is like the retrospective look, which I think is good for you since a lot of your lyrics are kind of time capsules almost. What would you tell that kid who is going to run for water to save his treehouse? What would you tell like the young Luke, if you could, about following your dreams, about following your art, the struggles ahead, the joys? Is there any advice you'd give that kid?
Oh, that's a tricky question.
That's why I end with it.
I would say, just keep writing songs in your own way. Like, keep doing your own craft with your own process, and you're gonna come up with good songs as long as you're true to yourself and you're just open to the ideas. And yeah, I would pretty much say like no regrets. Like, look, that's why it's hard to answer, because I would kind of be just like, just do what you did.
Yeah, no, that's fair, man. That's fair. Just keep doing it.
Do what you plan to do, and just, yeah, it'll pay off somehow to like enrich your life and help you meet people.
Cool, man. Any like ideas when the new album's going to be done?
I'm thinking it's going to be in the fall. It'll come out, but it's kind of hard to say. Like the timeline has been jigged around so many different times that I don't want to say anything, but I do have 2 grants, Ontario Arts Council and Waterloo Arts Council. They have deadlines, although I'm sure you can get extensions.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working to get it done as efficiently as possible.
That must have been nice to get those grants.
Yeah, I was super stressed and anxious around the time when I applied for them. So to actually have them come through was amazing.
Well, I look forward to hearing the new tracks.
Yeah. Okay, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on.
I understand the anger on both sides. My grandfather's disdain for the makers of the car I drive in a foreign land. We created a divide. They changed the name of the town where we live, but there's a history we can't hide. History we can't hide. We all have an evil past. Carpet bombs and mustard gas. We can't let hate have the last word, so let's change it back. Berlin, Berlin, Berlin. If we change it back, it'll still be colonial. Somebody told me songs shouldn't be political. I disagree. I've learned the opposite, 'cause we all have music in us. We just have to learn how to find it. Just have to learn how to find it. We all have an evil past. Carpet bombs and mustard gas. We can't let hate have the last word, so let's change it back. Berlin, Berlin, Berlin. We all have an evil past. Carpet bombs and
So
mustard
there it is,
gas.
guys. Thanks again for listening.
can't
Please
let
subscribe
hate
on
have
whatever
the
platform
last
you're listening to this. It
word,
really
so
helps me
let's
keep going,
change
seeing the
it
numbers
back.
gradually
Berlin,
climb.
Berlin.
I know we're still new to this, so any like, any share, any review really helps us out in the algorithm.
Berlin, Berlin.
And as we all know, the algorithms rule our life. looking to get on, have suggestions, or any personal insight on the struggle that you guys face as artists, I'd love to hear from you. I might even pick a couple to read on the next pod. So thanks again. I'll talk to you again next week. Undeniable is a creation from Tomcast Industries. Theme music was created by Tony Malek.